This 10-minute, 3-step weekly planning process using the time funnel will completely change the game for you. It involves top-down alignment, but it makes it easy and actionable so that you always feel proactive and not reactive. Whenever I tell people that I'm kind of a productivity YouTuber, they ask me, what's your number one tip? It's kind of something that commonly comes up, and I always say weekly planning. I think it's the most simple thing to completely changing your life. Eventually you could add other planning routines, like I love monthly planning and quarterly planning and yearly planning at this point, but I think if you just implemented weekly planning, it would completely change your life. So getting right into the philosophy, this is the time funnel, and it breaks time down into smaller and smaller and smaller layers as we go down. Since we are weekly planning, this is the level that we are first and foremost concerned with. So my planning process is just 3 steps. It's very easy no matter what level you're on. You start at the level you're on, you review it, then you go 1 level up to make sure you have top-down alignment and that you are connected with those bigger goals. And then you go 1 level down, and in this case, that's planning your days and your action steps for your days. And since I do this at every level, it means that even on a daily basis, my yearly intentions are always getting followed through upon. So this that I'm using right here is the Potential Planner. You can check out a free PDF of that in the description if you are interested. Otherwise, this method works with any planner that you have, even if you don't want to use this one. So kind of step 0, I always say, is setting the scene. I like to think of the 5 senses. So grab a drink if you want to have a beverage of your choice for taste, put on a candle for a nice smell, put on something cozy, put on nice music for hearing, and just really set the environment, like with mood lighting or changing up changing up where you plan. If sometimes you want to do it by the water and sometimes you want to do it at your house, like really just making it fun. But the first checkbox has us just review last week in any way that we can that would make sense to us. That could be reviewing last week's visioning pages. It could be reviewing last week's schedule or calendar if you have your own calendar. I like to review notes from the week, like if you have a notes app or you have Notion, or if you're a student and you have notes, I really like to take this as a time to kind of clear out any notes, write down anything that's actionable from those, if anything fell through the cracks. A lot of times I'll get random video ideas, and this is a good time to actually comb through that, what just seemed good at the time and what actually is a good idea that I want to act on. And then based on that, writing down what are 10 amazing things that happened this week. And by identifying the 10 best things about last week, that helps us inform what our values are and our priorities are for this week. So kind of the point of this is saying, okay, if this is the things that make it on the highlight reel of my week, I want to do more of those things next week. And another way to review is, what was your favorite failure from the week? And it's not a literal failure, but the acronym first attempt in learning. What was a new attempt for you this week? Maybe you don't normally paint and you made a painting and you thought it was ugly, but you're glad you attempted it anyways because it meant you were learning. You tried something new. And I think a lot of times if we try new things, people beat themselves up for it. And what I want to do is actually reward those things, because we need to fail more, fail forward more so that we can learn more, and really celebrate those attempts, even if we're not super proud of how they went. And then I'm gonna skip over this for now, but if you get the planner, there's a quarterly progress bar. But then review last week's schedule. Are there any tasks you didn't get to that you want to roll over? So this is really important to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. So that marks the first step, reviewing the week. Now we're gonna go up a month and review our monthly planning work, which I just had a video on that. So if you haven't done that, check that out. So during monthly planning, we wrote a monthly vision as if it was a journal entry in the past tense. So what we're gonna do is just, this is not my personal version because it's too personal, I didn't want to share it, but if you have your monthly vision, go back and review it. We want to always make sure we're referencing it. We don't want to just write this vision and then forget it, which is what I find so many planning routines do. If they set monthly goals, it's like they write them and then it's like a t-shirt in the back of the closet, you never go look at it. So this is constantly reminding you, okay, go back and look at your vision. Are you following through? This is making sure that we have top-down alignment. And this monthly vision was informed by our quarterly vision, and the quarterly vision was informed by the yearly vision. And so as we fold this down through the time funnel, it's making sure that we've had alignment at every step. So then, as part of going up a level, we're going to review and rewrite our yearly goal, our quarterly goal, and our monthly result. I just did a video on monthly planning, so you can go back and watch that. But we wrote on our monthly spread, we have our monthly goal at the top, and we have our weekly goals along the left-hand side that we chunked down. So then there's a blank that says, if you're still on track, great. If you're off track, choose new weekly results that will help you stay aligned with your monthly result. So this is something that's new to this version of the planner. It gives actual instructions for how to reevaluate, because just because we made the plan at the start of the year doesn't mean that it's actually going to continue going according to plan. So we need to continue reevaluating, and it's like climbing Mount Everest. You would not make the plan the day you get on the mountain. You outline the plan first. Once you get on the mountain, things are going to go wrong and you will need to reevaluate, but that doesn't mean that making the plan at the beginning wasn't useful, and that you probably couldn't have even got there in the first place if it wasn't for that first plan. So we make the plan, but then there's constantly blanks to reevaluate. So if we say, let's say we're on track, okay, boom, check that off. And then you go one level down, and in this case, that's planning your days and your action steps for your days. So then, just like for monthly planning, we are going to make a vision for the week. I just read a book, and one of the traits of high achievers is that they vision forward. That's something when they interview a lot of people who've really succeeded, before they go into an interaction, they're visioning. How do I want this to go? What do I want to get out of it? And that goes, I like to incorporate that with the days and the weeks, just always visioning forward. So at the start of the week, writing it as if the week has already happened, so acting as if it's a week from now and writing in the past tense and describing how amazing the week went. And it has questions to guide us. Write your weekly result on the top of the next page, which in my case was 3 videos. Then work backward, breaking it down into 5 daily results, and then finally add time slots to your schedule to work on each daily result and any prep required. So something a lot of planners do is that you set weekly goals at the start of the week, you set monthly goals at the start of the month, but I find that if you set weekly goals at the start of the week, it's already too late. And a lot of times you're going to be setting goals that aren't big enough, they aren't aligned to a bigger vision, they're dependent on your mood for the week. And so it's kind of like climbing Mount Everest. You wouldn't make the plan for how much you're going to hike that day the day you get there. You would have a plan set out ahead of time before you ever get to the mountain. And when you get to the mountain, you try to follow that plan as much as you can, and things might not go according to plan, and you'll reevaluate when you get there. But the reason you set the plan ahead of time is because you'll have a more bird's eye view. If you set a weekly goal at the beginning of the week, it's a little too narrowly focused in scope. It's just thinking about the current week, and it lacks kind of the bigger vision. So that's why I like to set weekly goals at the start of the month. And I like to set daily goals at the start of the week. And I like to set monthly goals at the start of the quarter. So it's a whole different philosophy from how a lot of different planners set goals, and I think it completely changes the game. So on the weekly planning page, which you could put this on any planner that has a weekly spread, you could find a slot to put these. But if my week 1 result is to post 3 videos, then I need to think, okay, where do I need to be? If I want to just do 5 weekdays, where do I need to be by the end of each day? Now this carried over from the previous week, so I think what I'll do is film, edit and post, film, edit and post, film. And then add time slots to the schedule to work on these. So if you haven't started on a big goal before, I would recommend just start with 20 minutes a day and work up to 1 hour. Since this is now kind of my career, I can add a lot more space. But let's say you wanted to add 1 hour, I would then on the actual schedule, add that. And any prep required. So in my case, like for filming, for example, especially if the prep required's on a different day, like I want to make sure I'm showered before I film. And I like to put like literally everything on the calendar. In addition to the actual event, the due date, like the essays due on this day, we also want to put the due dates, D-O, on the calendar, which is, I would write one day and edit one day, and all the do's, the verbs leading up to the actual due date. Then intentionally choose which events and tasks from the monthly calendar to transfer to your weekly schedule and schedule any prep needed for them. So this isn't my real planner, but basically I would take any tasks that are on this first week and I would intentionally add those to the weekly calendar. But only if they're intentional choices, because that monthly messy dashboard is metaphorically written in pencil. It's all my ideas, all my intentions. If everything from there is a yes, that means maybe I didn't design it very intentionally. Maybe it is, but maybe it's not. It's not always the case that everything's a yes. And then add in any routines and events that occur on a weekly or daily basis to the weekly schedule, like grocery shopping, laundry, date night, working out, cleaning, weekly planning, weekend reset, volleyball Wednesdays, Tuesday trivia night, etc. So you would go ahead and add all those things that occur, they're routines that occur regularly. And these could be chore related things, but they also could be events like Trivia Tuesdays, or maybe you want to do weekly date night. So it's not only chore related things, it's also fun things that are routines. So then finally, review your reflections from these weekly planning pages and add any action items to your weekly schedule. So when we did that pretend journal entry, acting as if it's a week from now, some things probably came up that we want to act on. Like if we said we want to do a date night, or if we said we want to go try a new restaurant, we should add those to the calendar now to make sure that the visions are actually attached to time. So there you have it. That is a 3-step planning routine. If you would like a free sample of this planner and the time funnel, you can click the link in the description to check it out. As well as if you haven't already seen the monthly planning video, I will have that linked here as well. So click on that and check that out. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.